The British have 2 reasons to celebrate. In view of the low number of corona cases, pubs and shops are open again. In addition, a research team claims to have found out there is already herd immunity in Great Britain. However, other experts doubt this. Finally, drink a pint in the pub starting yesterday, that was possible again in Great Britain. After more than 3 months of lockdown, the island has returned to normal. Bars and restaurants open, but shops, fitness studios, hairdressers and swimming pools are also allowed to receive visitors again. Because the United Kingdom is the European vaccination champion. And in a global comparison, the country ranks second behind Israel with the most vaccinated inhabitants, even if it's only 1 shot. In addition, the British authorities reported only 1,730 new infections on Sunday, the lowest value since September 2020. The 7-day incidence value is 15. For comparison, in Germany it's currently 136. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson declared a week ago that the easing is fully justified by the falling number of infections, because even after the schools opened on March 8th and the contact restrictions were relaxed, the number of infections and deaths has so far remained low. The latest easing steps are now also supported by a model calculation by University College London. The scientists want to have found out that 73.4% of the British population are now immune to the coronavirus. Thus, Britain would have achieved the long-awaited herd immunity. This value is not achieved through vaccination alone, write the UCL researchers. In the UK, more than 32 million people, almost half of the population, have received an initial injection and are at least partially immunized. The 4 million British people who already had the virus would also have to be counted among the vaccinated, writes the research team led by Carl Friston. Furthermore, the scientists assume that around 10% of the population is naturally immune to the coronavirus. This then results in a value of almost 75%. According to experts from the World Health Organization, the WHO, 60 to 70% of the population must be immunized for herd immunity. Put simply, a pathogen can no longer find enough new hosts and the pandemic comes to a standstill. If one believes the calculations of the UCL researchers, the threshold would have been exceeded in Great Britain. However, not everyone shares the optimism of this calculation. It was only at the end of March that a study by the British University of Warwick came to the conclusion that herd immunity with the help of corona vaccinations will no longer be possible in the near future. Instead, the researchers had warned of numerous new infections. Even with an immunization of the citizens of 85%, the increase in infections cannot be stopped by vaccinations alone, it said. The reason for this is the coronavirus variant B.1.1.7, which infects the unvaccinated younger population groups. With the emergence of new virus variants, it's also questionable whether those who have recovered can contribute to herd immunity. For example, last summer scientists calculated herd immunity for Manaus in Brazil. Tests on donated blood showed that in July, after a devastating first wave of infections in the city, 66% of people had antibodies to the virus. In October, it was even 76%. But in January, the second corona wave hit Manaus with full force. The health system collapsed again, the hospitals ran out of oxygen bottles. 25 and 61% of those infected in January had already gone through COVID disease. Still, they weren't immune. The P1 corona variant, which was first detected in Brazil, was responsible for the renewed severe outbreak. It is now known to have a mutation called E484K, which gives the virus some resistance to vaccines and antibodies. The events in Manaus had shown that COVID-19 should never run its course in the hope of generating herd immunity, said Professor Crystal Donnelly from Oxford University and Imperial College London to the British Guardian. According to Donnelly and his colleagues, the immunity of the British is just under 40%. almost half of the ULC result. We have to carefully define herd immunity when we think about the future, said the scientist. The vaccines are currently available are highly effective. However, we do not know which variants can arise. She's worried about potential variants that are so different that existing vaccines no longer protect against them. And I've heard several times now in different statements that scientists are still not sure about as well the Brazilian variant and the South African variant and the use of the current vaccines against them. So there are a lot of open questions left at the moment, and no matter where you are, I wouldn't just be laid back and think it's over. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel. Auf Wiedersehen.